Hi, so we might call this afternoon musings. Alienation between family members. I think this crosses all races and all cultures. And I'm thinking of families who have more than one child. I was an only child for nearly a decade, and then my brother was almost like a miracle baby because I remember, at least I know one time that I know of, my mom was pregnant and I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, mom's pregnant." And then, she just said, "Well, the baby just it went away." I remember seeing the pregnancy test, the old-fashioned pregnancy test with like the brown circle on the white background. However, they didn't have to kill the rabbit for that. I know that's not funny, but actually in the olden days, the rabbit would have to die to confirm that you're pregnant. I'm not sure how that worked. But my mom, being a science teacher, she would be very scientific, I suppose, about everything. And I'm not going to go into that, why she might have had a miscarriage. It's just a really sad thing. You lose a sibling that you never ever met. I mean, that was a baby, and it's just, well, one day it's here and then it's gone. I mean, nobody talks about, surviving sibling grief of children that are miscarried. I guess she might have been in the early stages. She wouldn't necessarily tell you everything. So years later, well, obviously, my brother was born, and he was, I don't know if you know that Tony, I'm going to cry. I don't really want to cry. The Tony Braxton song, "You Mean the World to Me, You're My Everything." That's how I felt about him. And I was entrusted with his care. They used to, my parents jokingly referred to me as the built-in babysitter. It's like, and I wanted to love that kid. I so wanted to be the best sister ever. I keep bringing this up, folks, like, "Well, you sound like a broken record." That's another thing my mom used to say, the broken record. Like, if it would get a scratch on the vinyl and the needle would skip and it kept saying the same thing over and over again. Adieu, 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 adieu. That's a broken record. You understand? People of the new generations have no clue about some of these things that we say, but we remember these things. And I wanted so much to be a great sister to that kid. And I keep sounding like a broken record, and I almost like cringe to hear myself say this. I went to so many different babysitters. I didn't know which disciplinary strategy was appropriate because when we lived after my it's another meme of me. It's so cringy. After my parents' divorce, we moved to a trailer park, and I even had two different babysitters in the trailer park because I wasn't quite old enough to just be left alone with them. So we would. I mean, the people were nice. They were nice, but they had a son who was like, he's kind of like a junior Conan the Barbarian. I mean, he had this blonde hair, and he was like really, really strong, and he was like a baby Bigfoot. He was just like, he's just full of energy. And she smacked his butt. I mean, his mommy smacked his butt, you know. So like, that's why they did it, just smack him till they start behaving. I mean, there's no time outs. In 1984, whoever heard of a timeout? It's like, "I'm gonna spank your butt. I gotta blister your backside." That kind of thing. It's not like I think that the parent was like a mean or abusive person, but she didn't. Her husband was like a really big guy, kind of like a pro wrestler, Hulk Hogan kind of guy. So I mean, she didn't. This was all they knew. This was their discipline. So I didn't know because I didn't very often even see my mother discipline my brother. My parents were kind of hands off in that respect, so I had to do it. And then my brother, as he got a little bit older, beyond a baby, I thought, well, this is the way to do it. You have to spank him. You have to slap him on the arm until you know. it's a very sad thing, but where were my parents? They must have seen this is my discipline. Well, let Erica do it. She's the built-in babysitter. Let her do it. And you know, years later, I really do believe that my brother resented me because I, as the built-in babysitter, only 9.5 years older than he, suddenly had to be an adult and understand what appropriate discipline was when it wasn't modeled for me. You see, if somebody would just really just sit down and really listen to somebody else or think about things, they'd be like, I never thought about that. Like, sometimes, my mother used to call me. Most famous conversations was like, she called me and she started to yell at me about something. This is shortly before my brother died. She started yelling at me, well, he posted a YouTube on video and you didn't like it and you didn't even see it. But Mom doesn't sound that way. I'm like, Mom, I honestly didn't even know that he even sent me anything. Like, I'm so busy. I'm like in the laundry room. We used to have a phone in the laundry room. I'm like, Mother, I have no clue. And I started defending myself. And after a while, she says, you're a really strong person. And she was sad that she just went off on me because my brother, who never had a kid and never wanted a kid or anybody else's kid, somehow his feelings are hurt, and the man's already in his 30s, his feelings are hurt because you didn't look at his YouTube video. I'm like, I honestly didn't even know he sent a video. I mean, honestly, I've been busy, obviously not very efficiently busy, but I've certainly been busy. And unfortunately, it seems as if my brother did commit suicide. He got involved with some bad people, and it started way back. I said, as soon as I leave home, this kid's going to go wrong. I thought to myself, this kid is going to go wrong. My parents won't protect him from these bad people, so he didn't get involved with drug dealers. He got involved with atheists. It's like, you don't want your kid being involved with these atheists, because one of his best friends from high school, I think his father was a school board member. He actually killed himself. It's like, that shows you, these people can be smart as a whip. So smart. They're too smart for their own good because they don't have faith. They have maybe an idolatry towards certain things, like, yeah, he was a gamer. He was a Dungeons and Dragons guy. Somebody else got him into it in high school. Wow, don't criticize the gamers. I'm just laying out the facts for you, madam. Just the facts, ma'am. You're too stupid. Somebody actually tried to invite me to be part of their league, but I'm like, I just don't want to get involved with it. I think it is an occultish thing, and I think it's satanic, and I wouldn't get involved with Dungeons and Dragons, not on your Nelly. And I know my oldest daughter was involved with it at some point, but this wasn't supposed to be a message about that at all. It was supposed to be a message about alienation between family members. Some parents are so insecure that they don't want the siblings to really be close because that threatens them, their position at the top of the triangle. That's called triangulation, I guess. I don't know. Haven't done the research, but I know enough to know, more than enough. This person is so insecure. If you imagine the mom being at the top of the triangle and the sibling being at the furthest points possible at the bottom of the triangle, if it's a equilateral triangle. Somehow, some parents feel threatened when siblings are close. Oh, if they would talk amongst themselves, because they know how much they talk about their parents. And they don't want to be, maybe you had a parent that had one parent, they would always complain about them. Oh, this person is so bad, and that's their parent. This person is so terrible, and they had a sibling, and they could, they bonded over that dysfunction, like, well, this is what's wrong with her, and blah, blah, blah. And, it's like they bonded over that. Well, history seems to repeat itself, folks. I do feel as if my brother was really discouraged, actively discouraged from forming a bond with me because they felt that their position was threatened. Well, they'll talk bad about me. He'll end up liking her more than he likes me, and I can't have that. So we don't want the siblings bonding with each other. Nobody knew that he was that depressed that he was going to kill himself. Nobody knew. He disguised it really well. I'm going to tell you straight up, there's no chance of that. I mean, seeing what it put my mother through, once somebody does something like that, that's just, nobody deserves that. No, nobody deserves that. And it put my dad through a lot as well. He cared as much as my mom. Just because I'm saying a factor was the sibling alienation. He resented me because, well, you were just so mean to me. When I was a kid, you slapped me instead of giving me a timeout. We were born nearly a generation apart. When you think about a decade being almost like an entire generation, at the way things change so quickly. I couldn't tell you the difference between 2000, 2010, 2020 hairstyles. I haven't the foggiest notion. I can tell you about the 70s, I can tell you about the 80s, I can tell you about the 90s. Everything beyond that, it's like, well, that's my adult life. Everything is getting kind of cloudy here. My perception is just survival, being a parent, surviving. Wow. Well, now I see what you're doing. You're just blaming your parents. No, I'm saying it was a factor. If my parents had deliberately fostered a close relationship between me and my sibling, he might not be dead today. Because I'm an older person, so I had the benefit of experience that he didn't have, and I'm closer than his parents in terms of, my parents were old when they gave birth to me. People who have parents in their 30s are like, well, your parents are like old people. My mom didn't give birth to my brother until she was in her 40s, so that's really old. And then by the time he's grown up, they're really, really old. And it might have been beneficial for him to have the support of somebody. But I was so cowed. I love cows, so it's not an insult. You do what you're told, you follow the protocol, and you don't question anything. You don't go and you're not a feisty one. You're a submissive one. So I was submissive to whatever my mom wanted. I could be feisty at times, but at the end of the day, well, you're too stupid to understand my game because I'm not clever at all. My daddy wasn't clever. He was just very straightforward. People who engage in subterfuge, I don't like the subtlety, and I don't like the subterfuge. I don't gossip about people. Oh, you're gossiping right now. Well, who else can I tell? Nobody else is listening. The walls, maybe. The odd cat. Bird on a tree branch, but they're not here now because it ain't spring. So at the end of the day, I say I'm really glad that siblings love one another, but just make sure what's uniting you is not a mutual hatred of a certain parent or contempt of a parent, because that's a really dysfunctional intimacy, if you ask me. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.